Yes, yes, good morning. Good morning. This is Monica, your friend Monica. That was AM Taxi with Reckless in the Moonlight. Anyway, we gotta do another reading. It's another reading day for us. We are gonna continue with Dr. Michael Parenti with the black shirts in red. So before we do, I just want to talk about a few things. I shared a video yesterday on my Facebook page, a conversation they had with the Ali Zadeh. He's a scholar, Iranian scholar. And I thought it was very instructive to learn Iranian society, right? The development of the social class there, and the attitudes and sentiment of Iranian people, and all the in and outs of that society, independent of the settler colonists, the white degenerates who envious of the beautiful and long-lasting culture. So they sat down with this gentleman, and I think everybody should go ahead and listen to that interview with which is in Attrition Podcast, right? Is this a British thinker who was interviewing him. The title of the conversation is Navigating the Iran Mindset, War Riots and Diaspora Psychosis. So that's that. And then as I do every day, I went to Twitter. By the way, there's a new app that was created by a Palestinian Australian who is just sick and tired of the social media companies that want to suppress information, inconvenient information, so to speak, right? The ideas that they do not want to hear from, especially trying to suppress the Palestine genocide. So he created this app. Is called Upscroll. I have an account there, and my handle there is M Auger because my husband is the Auger. I'm M Auger. So if you go to Upscroll, please follow me. I only posted 2 times because I'm still waiting for everybody to get there. And by that I mean like the people that I follow on Twitter. Also, then once I that, then the interaction would be better. But it's already good. It's really, really, really good. We already have Mr. Mr. Powell over there, the author of the Neoliberal Holocaust on his books. He's already there. I follow him today. He already have an account. Right, so that's that. And then I want to just talk about something about one more thing. Actually a couple more things. There's something I've been trying to articulate, but because I lack eloquence and I lack a way to put things, I lack speaking skills, and I lack I lack a lot, okay? But what I'm trying to convey is something, and hopefully it'll come across. That's why I read of people that I read, because they're eloquent and they know how to they know how to convey things. That way it's easier for us to understand. This whole planet Earth, right? The planet Earth. It's not as we see it, right? You cannot focus just within your neighborhood or within, I mean, you can, but that's not the whole. What happened in your neighborhood is connected to the whole planet, okay? Like literally, like the whole planet. You live at the mercy of the whole planet, right? Now, when it comes to fascists and racists and, the cultural people we have in this planet over the last 500 years, white folks, they like to think that they're self-reliance and somehow they're just perfect humans. That's why they live better than other people. But that's anything but, okay? They live at the mercy of blood and sweat of other people. There's nothing about them that is come just from them. There's no such thing, right? And then but on the reverse side of it, where you live in a very paradise little town, there's also another town that is severely is at this point is really maybe slightly disconnected from the global system, and that too is vulnerable, okay? Because these degenerates can just descend in your town and call it a day. So it's important that we pay attention or we understand how things work. It's not just people who are oppressed. Whole nation states are oppressed. And those are the most important. The oppression of countries are the worst type of oppression, right? Because if a country, because everything is carved up, if a country cannot be independent to decide for his own population, then the population can do shit, all right? Because the people, you only have You only supposed to have power to your local place. But if your local place is connected by oppressor, like the white degenerate that the white folks put in white supremacy house, then you really have no voice, right? But anyway, so that's that. That's how that works. But then, when it comes to this whole thing about dissenting, people who protest, complain about the barbaric colonial system we live under, when it comes to just the dissenting in generality, we always have to be very careful because the enemy, the oppressors, use our dissenting to perpetuate the oppression, okay? And that's why books like Who Paid the Pipers of Western Marxism come into being, because the word Marxism, right, we are told there is such thing as Western Marxism instead of Marxism, right? So this Western Marxism, it had the word Marxism, and Marxism is supposed to be a counter-hegemonic, right? Those are the enemies that the oppressor have for us. We have to fight them because they dilute our militant, the only tools we have, right? So that's what is that. So what I'm talking about. So yesterday, I'm gonna give you an example, a concrete example. Yesterday, there's a Palestinian American writer, and she's a lawyer, a human rights lawyer. She's a professor. She writes books. She's an author, and I have been following her for many years, and I thought I respect her, but I don't respect her no more. So this people are now said that maybe she's a CIA. I said, but definitely there's some shit going on with her. Okay. She tweeted, but so she's on a camp that believe that there's such thing as we need to protect Iranian people, okay? Whenever you hear that, oh, we need to protect Iranian people because Iranian people need protection. We need to protect Syrian people because the Syrian people need a protection. We need to protect the Libyan people because the Libyan people need a protection. You can on and on. Once you start hearing that, you really lost me. You really lost me. Alright? Because we have a monster on top of all of that. And if you're not fighting a monster and you just concentrated in isolation, I'm not hearing you. Fuck you. Fuck you. So that's why you always have to, just because somebody is quote unquote smarter than you, doesn't mean that you cannot look at what they're doing and how they're doing it and what they're really advocating. Alright? You cannot, you just can't. You have to look the fuck they're doing. It's not that complicated. To the extent that Iranian people need freedom or whatever the fuck, that's the Iranian people. It has nothing to do with Nora, who live in the United States and her man's a bourgeoisie bitch. Okay? She can go fuck herself. That's not her concern. The concern should be telling U.S. to get the fuck out. It has nothing to do with Iran. Right? That should be her job. That's it. I support the Iranian state. And that's it. I support the Iranian government. And I support the whole Iranian society. That's it. That's the only thing I want to hear from her. Is the bitch not saying that I don't need to hear shit out. Well, she said that, oh, we can have it both ways, which is when you already hear that both ways, it's already like, bitch, you are a fucking piece of shit, okay? Alright. So she got called out on it because real leftists like me ain't having it because the bitch gave this veneer that she's a leftist. But that's obviously can be a left shit, okay? And then, after the bitch did that, and she's getting a flack for it, as she deserved, then another bitch got in here on the bandwagon and trying to defend her because she's a woman, a Palestinian woman, and why y'all going on against her? First of all, there's no a human that own Palestinians or own white people or own black people. Okay? You do not own a group. You do not own human beings. Okay? There's causes. There's fundamental causes. Okay? And if we are under oppression, the oppression is what we have to. It's not like I don't just because I'm a mulatto mean I own all the mulatto people and I speak for the mulatto people. No, I'm not. Right? That has not. No, I speak for human rights, for human dignity, and for human freedom. That's it. Whoever the human, what all the humans, okay, not just my phenotype. Okay. So anyway, once she did that, she get some flack, and she should have get some flack. Then there's other bitch. Her name is Timi Hebrew. Okay, now this bitch here. Let me tell you a little bit about her. So she is, I think she's an Ethiopian American, and she went viral a few years ago. Oh wait, wait a minute. Hold on, let me. Bear with me. I'm sorry, I'm coughing, so bear with me. Alright, so this bitch here, she went viral a few years ago because she got fired from Google, right? So she's a genius, okay? She's a genius. She was Ethiopian. She's a computer scientist, okay? Now, genius, right? She works for Google, and she got fired because she was complaining how the races within the data sets and shit like that. Things I don't understand. Very, very complicated computer science, electronic, technological things. So she's a mechanical engineer, okay? She went to Stanford University. She's 43 years old. So she went viral and she got fired. And at the time, I supported her because if we are gonna have this fucking technology, they need to consider the spectrum of all humans, right? And that's fine. But her fucking politics are extremely sketchy. The bitch live in a fantasy land, sort, right? So when Laura, who is a human rights attorney, and who and who is a pro-Palestinian, she's a Palestinian and all that shit, right? When she got the flag that she deserved, because mind you, if you think you care about Iranian people, you better hope the Iranian state intact as a state, because the shit we see in Libya, the shit we see in Syria, the shit we see in and all these destroyed states that these white degenerate has unleashed on these people, no human being wants that. I would rather be dead than be subjected to shit like that. Okay? So unless they are delusional, which I don't think they are delusional, these are very smart people. What I do think they are control opposition. And that's why the book that I just cited is coming to place. Who Paid the Piper Western Marxism? And we're going to read that book. We're going to read all the trilogy. Because you have to understand, just because they come from this perspective don't mean that these are control, okay? And they may not be overt, obvious control, but they are control, okay? Because nobody should want a fucking failed state, okay? Just like, no, nobody, you don't want it. You do not want, if you care about people, that's the last thing you want for them. That's the last thing. All right. So, anyway, so she yesterday, the stupid bitch who's supposed to be a genius, a technological genius, bitch got in and started defending Nora, right? So she defended Nora Erica, because she's being attacked. She's getting correctly attacked. She's supposed to be, she's a public person, and she's got a huge platform spewing this bullshit, right? And so I make sure I cut her out. I'm like a correct peasant that I am, and a savage animal that I am. I was like, I tweeted at this Timby Gibru. I cut her out, so I was like, shut the fuck up, bitch. She deserves it and more. So I say, and that's how you need to, because it's best I'm trying to even get into this conversation with these dumb people. Because let's put it this way, if after Libya, after Iraq, after Afghanistan, after Sudan, after Palestine genocide, after Venezuela, after Bolivia, I can go on and on and on. These are people the same age as me. She's 43 years old. I mean, no, I'm obviously 7 years older than her. But nevertheless, all these people been alive, right, when all that shit happened. And these are some of the smartest people on earth. If they're still in this delusion, and they're still like playing these fucking stupid games, they are playing a whole different games that they don't, the last thing you get about is human safety, okay? Because what they see, they want to see what we see in Libya, right? It's slave market. What we see in Syria, slaughtering, they go to a hospital, it slaughter all the people in the motherfucking hospital, patients, doctors, nurses, everybody is slaughtered, right? They want to see what we see in Lebanon. These people, they do not care about human freedom. They do not want to care about it. Because the first thing we need to do before we can even get to a human freedoms is to destroy the imperial state that control the whole planet. That's the first thing. That's the first order of business here. Right? So that's how you need to deal with these animals. You don't need to be deferential, decorum with these fucking, because you know what? When these animals, the white degenerates are coming and blow out the baby brain, that's the baby brain that got out, and the baby gone forever. Okay? We can't fuck around with these fucking people. We can. We cannot fuck with them. We gotta cast them out. Fuck you. You have no say here. And the problem they have is like, not everybody is gonna be like me. There's not enough of me. That's why they get away with it. I guarantee you, if they get enough cast out, they will change their tune, and now they know how to get the correct message. Right? But there's not enough of me. That's the problem. I am on the fringe. Because I have no room to be polite to these. They're dangerous. They are fucking dangerous. And like I say on my Twitter, anybody that is pro-overthrow of Iranian state is getting blocked. Or I'm casting them out. Alright? And that's how, I don't play games like that. Just like years ago, I got blocked by Nicole Hannah-Jones. Because I called her out her watered down bullshit politics. Almost like she want to preserve it. She got this little stick to make like as if black, quote unquote, black America are the God on earth. So we're gonna replace the white supremacy degenerates now with a new group of human beings that call Black America. Go fuck yourself. And then she blocked me. I guess no fuck. Alright? Now I like some of her work, but that doesn't mean that I'm gonna put up with bullshit. Right? And then we got who else? Eva Lutenier, the daughter of Martin Luther King. I cast them out. I don't play no games. Because these are too important, okay? Human freedom. You know what I want? Freedom for all humans, not just my baby, not just my aunt baby, all humans babies. I want them free, okay, from the degeneracy, because we live in a degenerate world. Okay, these are my fundamental core convictions. All right, and those should be the conviction of everybody. It's just right. If you don't want it for you, you shouldn't want it for anybody else. It's really that simple, right? This hypocritical viewpoint, no, we can't play that, because these are not like, okay, if it's just the average person, maybe I'll give them a time that maybe they don't know something. But these are the bitches who know what it means to destroy an state, where cancer rates in Iran are unthinkable. Women who can no longer conceive babies because they are born with chemicals on their bodies. It is destroying the Iraqi state as we know it. It's gone. And that's what they want. You know why? Because they want to create this new white colonized state called Israel. Because Israeli women, they have 10, 15 children, right? Right? While everybody around them can't have no children, right? So they can replace all that population of Arab people with degenerate white folks, right? And there's a iteration of white folks gonna be the Jewish white folks, right? So that's why they're doing that, right? So I am not trying to play fucking games with, just because you call yourself a motherfucking pro-Palestinian, or you call yourself a Palestinian, or you call yourself a fucking what have you. Fuck you. Okay, that's how I feel about it. Anyway, I got my angry white black woman out of the way. Then now let me talk about something slightly personal. So anyway, so this morning I was just talking to my husband. I love my husband to death. And what's so beautiful about my husband is this. On the one hand, he is very kind and gentle guy, but at the same time, he's very strong, okay? And also, my husband, somebody's coming. Somebody is opening the garage. Okay. And also, but obviously my husband is at the same time innocent like me. Believe it or not. If you can think I'm an innocent, I'm a little innocent. But at the same time, even though I'm a little innocent, I'm innocent when it comes to interpersonals, or when it comes to that's with my family. Because my family, like, the kind of people who rather just talk about mundane shit and stuff like that. And I don't quite do well with a lot of mundane stuff. Oh, hey, Daisy. Your dad told me you went to school today.
Well, yeah, I don't have classes yet, but Emily left something.
Oh.
So I had to bring it to her.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm doing my video.
Okay.
Alright. So anyway, he's a little bit like that. But the difference between me and him is I'm perceptive. But why I'm perceptive? You have to be. If you person of color in the white supremacy world, you have to be perceptive. Your instincts and your perception, you have to be able to pick up what's being communicated and the absence of what's not being communicated, right? And just how it is. And so I was just trying and then another thing I like that I was just talking to my husband about is how how can I say this? how I just make fun of things. You know why? Because I read people like Dr. Graber, who was an anthropologist, right? And he studied human life, right? And human societies and human behaviors and all that stuff. And I like to think that all families we just an anthropological subject, and it's just funny. It's funny to me. And when you're in the middle of a little bit of something, you're like, oh my God, this is just and this and that, right? And that's why people like drama. That's why you think what do you think we like watching TV and drama and shit like that? And why you think it's entertaining? Because those are human behavior on display, right? And I'm the same way. So what I'm talking about. Anyway, so when my husband's family, well my husband's mom in a hospital, and everybody is so preoccupied with the fact they were preoccupied with death, right? And I was preoccupied with life. And I was just like, everybody talking about. I'm like, no, that's not. And I'm just myself. And maybe I need to tell a chill pill, maybe. But at the same time, though, I was. This is not like It's not like I was given a script and you need to follow this way. No, I was just I was just like living life, right? And then I get into a trouble, like get in an argument with Henry, cause she said, no, Monica, that's why they moved Jean over there. I'm like, no, Gina's gonna do okay. That's not why. That's not why. So move her because she's gonna go get repeated like aggressive aggressive assistance. More not aggressive. I shouldn't use the word aggressive. She gotta get a close assistance, a close monitoring. I have an aunt who it was a doctor in ICU for many years. Okay, and I know that was her job. So I already know that was not that. And then I was just like, and my husband, it just makes them seem a lot more funny, right? Because here it is, the whole drama out of the whole thing. Everything was blown out of proportion. And even though really they wanted to insult me, at the end of the day, I'm the one who was actually out here advocating for Jean, saying that she's good, she's got this, she's gonna get it, and I thought I was right. And they may not want to admit that the little brownie, she was right, but my husband already said, I give you credit for that, Monica. And I really appreciate that about my husband. That's why I love him so much, because my husband think that I may be a little clumsy, but I mean well, right? I mean well. And that's the only thing you can expect of people, good or bad, for them to mean well, right? To mean well, to have good faith, and to genuinely care for you, right? And say what they really think, right? And that's all. That's all I wanted to say about that. Anyway, now let's go read Dr. Parenti. So today we are gonna pick up on chapter 3. I'll close my page. Okay, left anti-communism. And that's why Nora Arka is left anti-communist. Okay? Fucking bitch. In the United States, for over 100 years, the ruling interest tirelessly propagated anti-communism among the populace until it became more like a religious orthodoxy than a political analysis. During the Cold War, the anti-communist and the ideology framework could transform any data about existing communist society into hostile evidence. If the Soviets refused to negotiate a point, they were intransigent and belligerent. If they appear willing to make concession, this was but a skillful ploy to put off our guard, and by opposing arms limitation, they would have demonstrated their aggressive intent. But when in fact they supported most armament treaties, it was because they were mendicious and manipulative. If the churches in the USSR were empty, this demonstrates that religion was superseded. But if the churches were full, this meant the people were rejecting the regime atheism ideology. If the workers were on strike, as happened on infrequent association, this was evident with the alienation from the collectivist system. If it didn't go on a strike, this was because they were intimidated by the lack freedom. A scarcity of consumer goods and demonstrated the failures of the economic system. An improvement in consumer supplies meant only that the leaders were attempting to placate uh, a restive population and so maintain a firmer hold on them. If the communists in the United States play an important role struggling for the rights of workers, the poor, Africans, Americans, women, and others, this was only the lawful way of gathering support among disenfranchised groups and gains power for themselves. How one gained power by fighting for the rights of powerless groups was never explained. What we are dealing with in a non-falsified orthodoxy so assiduously marked by the ruling interest that it affected people across the entire political spectrum. Did you see? Did you hear all of that? It's always say, "Oh, we want affordable health care." That's communism. We want affordable housing. That's communism. We want a better wage. That's communism. We want a clean air. That's communism. We don't want to work. That's communism. Everything you say that actually you feel like is deprived to you to maintain a healthy human existence on this earth is communism. Okay? And that's why the younger people, right? Because why there's like we hear about the elite overproduction, and they are fighting because they don't have enough power to rule over us. Our overlords, there's an elite over, it's too many of them, and there's so many few position of power. So as the rest of us, we also a lot of us, and then our lives are getting worse and worse and worse and worse, right? So why is that? Because we have the capitalist state. That and in capitalism, there has to be winners, and the winner has to be one or two. Why we is a bunch of losers. The losers is the millions, billions, right? That's how you need to say it. But let's keep going. Genuflection to orthodoxy. Many in the U.S. left have exhibited a Soviet bashing and red baiting that matches anything on the right and his empty and cruelty. Listen to Noam Chomsky holding forth about quote the quote unquote the left intellectual who try to quote unquote rise to powers on the backs of the mass popular movement, and then quote unquote then bears the people into submission. You start off basically of Lenin, who is going to be part of the bureaucracy. You see, actually, let me go back a little bit. I don't want to misread Dr. Parenti, because homeboy is pretty good at communicating. Many on the left have exhibited on social bashing and rape baiting that matches anything on the right in terms on its enmity and credulity. Listen to Noam Chomsky holding forth about, quote, left intellectual, close quote, who tried to, quote, rise to power on the backs of mass populist movement, close quote, and then, quote, then beat the people into submission. You start off as basically Leninist who is going to be part of the red bureaucracy. You see later that power doesn't lie that way, and you very quickly become an ideological of the right. You are seeing it right now in the former Soviet Union. The same guys who were communist thugs 2 years back are now running banks and are enthusiastic free marketers and praising American, close quote. Hear that? Chomsky imaginary is heavily indebted to the same U.S. corporate political culture he so frequently criticized on those other issues. In his mind, again, Chomsky is a fucking virulent anti-communist. But let's keep going. In his mind, the revolution was betrayed by a coterie of quote-unquote communist thugs who merely hunger for power rather than wanting the power to end hunger. In fact, the communists did not, quote-unquote, very quickly swift to right, but struggle in the face of a momentous onslaught to keep Soviet socialism alive for more than 70 years. To be sure, in the Soviet Union, winning days, some like Boris Yeltsin crossed over to capitalist rank, but others continue to resist free market incursion at great cost to themselves, many meeting their death during the Yeltsin's violent repression of the Russian parliament in 1993. Some leftists and others fall back on old stereotypes of power-hungry rats who pursue power for power's sake without regard for its actual social goals. If true, one wonders why in country after country these rats sides with poor and powerless often at great risk and sacrifice to themselves rather than reaping the rewards that come with serving the well place. You see, that's the same thing we see with the fucking the haircuts. She's a no Chomsky. We cannot play with the phony intellectuals, all right, who get the prestige of being quote unquote pro the powerless when in fact they are part of the power tools. Alright, we need uncompromising, ideological, firm people like Dr. Parenti, right? And that's what Dr. Parenti is so inspiring. Not so much for the general public who may not be too in and out of the day, but to the other intellectuals or aspiring intellectuals who have a model to go after. Somebody who is uncompromising and actually honest with the material conditions of this world. But let's keep going. For decades, many left-leaning writers and speakers in the United States have felt obliged to establish their credibility by indulging in anti-communist and anti-Soviet genuflection, seemingly unable to give a talk or write an article or a book review on whatever political subject without injection, some anti-red sideswept. The intent was and it still is to distance themselves from the Marxist-Leninist left. Adam Hochschild, a liberal writer and a publisher, warned those on the left who might be lackadaisical about condemning existing communist society that they, quote, weaken their credibility, close quote. Let's keep going. In other words, to be credible opponents of the Cold War, we first had to join in Cold War condemnation of communist society. Radas argued that the peace movement purged itself of communists so that it not be accused of being communist. If I understand Radas, to save ourselves from anti-communist witch hunt, we should ourselves become witch hunters. Okay, that's a variety. Let's keep going. Purging the level of communists became a long-standing practice, having injurious effects on various progressive causes. For instance, in 1949, some 12 unions were ousted from the CIO because they had red in their leadership. The purge reduced CIO membership by some 1.7 million and seriously weakened its recruitment and drives and political clout. In the late 1940s, to avoid being quote-unquote smeared as red in Americans for Democratic Action, ADA, a supposedly progressive group, became one of the most vocally anti-communist organizations. The strategy did not work. IDA and others on the left were still attacked for being communist or soft on communism by those on the right. Then now, many on the left have failed to realize that those who fight for social change on behalf of the less privileged elements of society will be rebated by conservative elites, whether they are communists or not. Exactly. Okay? I mean, Joe Biden is one of he's more capitalist than all the garbage in the Republican Party. But you know what? The average white bitch who is racist as fuck still think that Joe Biden is a communist. Because for the white degenerates in the Republican Party, if you're not a Republican Party, you are a communist. Okay? Simple as that. I mean, if I don't know, it sounds to me they want one party, right? Right? I mean, it doesn't matter. You cannot please racists. You cannot. There's nothing you can do to convince racists, to convince hateful people, to convince people who literally hate. They hate us. They hate black people. They hate brown people. They hate migrants. They hate the poor. They hate the sick. There's nothing you can do to change their mind. You just have to fight them. Alright? You got to fight. You have to be an apologetic. I am a communist and I want a communist society, bitch. Alright? Catherine, too bad, so sad. I want a communist society because I do not like to see wealthy pigs while we don't have hospital running for people, right? How about that? Be like that. Bitch, you don't need all that land. As you're not entitled to it, bitch. You know, we don't need to have a genocide. No, bitch. No, we don't need starving wages so you can have your portfolio billions of dollars on it. Go fuck yourself. That's how you need to talk to them. You can compromise with them. There is no compromising with them. There's fighting with them. And that's what they like. They get away with it because they have the Democratic Party who is worthless. Right? Because they are pressure. Okay? Let's keep going. Where's my book? What was that? Okay. For the ruling interest, it makes little difference whether their wealth and power is challenged by quote-unquote communist subversive or quote-unquote loyal American liberals. All are lumped together as more or less equally abhorrent. You hear that? You hear that, okay? That's why Dr. Parenti can't have a fucking job. He been ostracized They label him the worst thing in the because he done told the truth. Let's keep going. Even when attacked by right, left critics cannot pass up an opportunity to flash their anti-communist credentials. So Mark Green writes in his criticism of the President Ronald Reagan that, quote, when presented with a situation that challenged his conservative casteism, like an unyielding Marxist-Leninist, Reagan will change not his mind, but his fact, close quote. While professing a dedication to fighting dogmatism, quote, both of the right and left quote individuals who perform such the regular kind of flexion reinforce the anti-communist dogma. Right-baiting leftists contribute their share to the climate of hostility that has been U.S. leaders such a free hand in waging hot and cold wars against communist countries, in which even today makes a progressive or even liberal agenda difficult to promote. You see? And I'm telling you, these fake leftists, these cowards leftists, these so-called leftists and name only, they're the main problem. I don't even like the already degenerates, so-called conservative. You know what? I don't know what kind of conservatives. They don't want to conserve clean air. Don't want to. These are racist, reactionary racists. Okay, we should call them that instead of calling them conservative, because I am a conservative, right? I really do. I want to preserve. There's a lot of things I want to preserve in it. I want to preserve the archaeological site. I want to preserve clean air. I want to preserve this planet healthy and happy for the rest for eternity. I am a conservative at heart, right? But I am now in the destruction, so I can be wealthy, so my degenerate children can have continue to be the rulers and the degenerates for eternity. That's not a conservative. I don't know the fuck that shit is. They are perversing language. They are abusing language. They are abusing human understanding of what a word's supposed to mean. Okay? Okay, that's right. These are evil people, right? These are reactionaries. They're not fucking conservative. Fuck that shit. Let's keep going. A prototypic rat Beijing who pretended to be on the left was George Orwell in the middle of World War II. As the Soviet Union was fighting for his life against the Nazis invaders at Stalingrad, Orwell announced that a quote, willingness to criticize Russia and Stalin is the test of the intellectual honesty. It is the only thing that from a literary intellectual's point of view is really dangerous, close quote. Safely in council within the overtly anti-communist society, Orwell with Orwellian doublethink characterized the condemnation of communism as a lonely courageous act of defiance. Today, his ideological progeny are still at it, offering themselves intrepid left circle of the left, waging a valiant struggle against the imaginary Marxist-Leninist Stalin horse. Surely lacking within the U.S. left is any rational evaluation of the Soviet Union, a nation that endured a protracted civil war and a multinational foreign invasion in the very first years of its existence, and that 2 decades later threw back and destroyed the Nazi beast at enormous cost to itself. In the 3 decades after the Bolshevik Revolution, the Soviet made industrial advances equal to what capitalists took a century to accomplish, while feeding and schooling their children rather than working them 14 hours a day as capitalist industrials did and still do in many parts of the world. the Soviet Union, along with the Bulgaria, the Germany Democratic Republic, and the Cuba provided vital assistance to national liberation movement in countries around the world, including Nelson Mandela, African National Congress, and South Africa. Left anti-communists remain studiously unimpressed by dramatic gains won by the masses of previously impoverished people under communism. Some were even scornful of such accomplishments. I recall how in Burlington, Vermont in 1971, the noted anti-communist anarchist Murray Bookchin derisively referred to my concern for, quote, the poor little children who got fed under communism, close quote, his words. I'm sorry, babe, can I have some water? Please. Alright, so now, sliding labels. Oh, by the way, and that's why people don't understand why we, like, for example, Venezuela revolution. Thank you, baby. Venezuela revolution brought people who were already at the margin back to the political. They give them political identity, So and that's what people don't understand, right? Social movements is that social movement to bring people who are being suppressed, oppressed, marginalized, give them dignity, bring them to the forth, right? Same thing with the Iran Revolution, and bring people who have no voice, because before the Iranian Islamic Revolution, the Iranian as a whole is an Islamic state, and with a secular state that did not care about those types of people. So these people now we have a voice in Iran, right? And then this revolution, Iran has a higher literacy in the world. These are well-educated people. Under the monarchy, they did not prioritize for people to go to school or anything. They didn't care, right? They really do not care. All right. And same thing here before the civil rights in U.S. Black folks have no voice. They didn't care. Because these white degenerates that like to say that they're the essence of freedom, they're anything but. I mean, these are slave-holding class. These are slave-holding degenerates. They can't tell nobody about it. They create people to be unfree. We have chauvinistic, capitalism is a society of chauvinism, okay? Arrogance, the bourgeoisie class, garbage, and the petty bourgeois who want to be bourgeoisie, right? We can't respect this shit. We should demand that we should ask for more. We want freedom, true freedom, not fake freedom, not a freedom for white degenerate to commit genocide with impunity. That's not freedom. We aren't free, okay? When we still have this class of white degenerates with disproportionate amount of power against the whole people, that's not freedom. That's not freedom. Just because a white degenerate in Washington, D.C. can do whatever the fuck they want and get away with it does not mean the rest of us are free. I mean, we are oppressed. It's the same relation the king and the serfs, okay? The same exact thing. Netanyahu, who has slaughtered over 1 million Palestinians, is flying left and right, is being respected. They're clapping him in the fucking Congress. That is not free. That's some disgusting garbage, unthinkable to my sensibilities. Okay? But let's keep going. Sliding labels. Those of us who refused to join in the Soviet bashing were branded by left anti-communists as, quote, Soviet apologists and quote Stalinist, even if we dislike Stalin and his autocratic system of rule and believe there were things seriously wrong with existing Soviet society. Our real sin was that unlike many on the left, unlike many on the left, we refuse to uncritically swallow U.S. media propaganda about communist society. Instead, we maintain that aside from the war publicized deficiency and injustices, there were positive features about the existing communist system that were worth preserving, that improved the lives of the hundreds of millions of people in meaningful and humanizing ways. This claim had a decisively unsettling effect on left anti-communists who themselves could not utter a positive word about the communist society except possibly Cuba, and could not lend a tolerant or even courageous ear to anyone who did. Now, this is why I diverse a little bit with Dr. Parenti, because I personally believe without a strong force that can keep the bourgeoisie class in place, we will never be free. Because we have, if you assume that these are like the Kwame Ture say, in order for you to appeal to somebody and have a conversation with them, they had to see you as a person. They had to have there's some sort of equality. You are human. They had to recognize you as human and deserving all the dignities that you allow them to have too. But that's not the relationship here. The relationship we have is we have a degenerates, okay, who does not see us, the rest of us, as real human, okay? They don't think we are worthy of having some sort of consensus. We can come to some sort of agreement. They impose their way on you, whether you like it or not, right? So in order to deal with those kind of degenerate, Iran has to have the missiles. If Iran give up the missiles, there will be Libya tomorrow. Part of the reason that keep these animals in check is because they know, bitch, you go over there, Iranian will display their missiles. Right? Now, you can call that authoritarian all you want, but I believe in authoritarian of the proletariat. Okay? That's it. It's not like people like to say, oh, authoritarian of the proletariat. What do you think that was? It's a physical force, right? Now you see everybody now like North Korea. Why? Because North Korea was like, we done with this shit. We get nuclear weapons. You see why degenerates going over there in North Korea? No, because they know North Korea will use some motherfucking nuclear weapons will be the call of the day. Alright? There's not, you cannot make me feel bad, but Stalin did what he had to do. You gotta do something with the bourgeoisie. You got to do something. Okay? You just have to. These are degenerates. These are social, I think, who was it? And this is Catherine. And she is pretty much a conservative white woman, and she's, like in the military and all that shit. So this is not a leftist or anything. And she already tell us that, like, literally all the ruling class in U.S. are sociopaths. Are clinically sociopathic. All right, go look in the dictionary what a sociopath is. They're seriously, we could all die and they wouldn't feel a thing. Not a single thing. They have sex with their fucking prostitute, they call wives, like for physical pleasure, not no emotion involved, okay? So these are sociopathic, and they promote these ideas to the rest of the culture. It's disgusting. Let's keep going. Saturated by anti-communist orthodoxy, most U.S. leftists have practiced a left McCarthyism against people who they have something positive to say about the existing communism, excluding them from a participation in conference, advisory boards, political encouragement, and left publication. Like conservatives, left anti-communist tolerates nothing less than a blanket condemnation of the Soviet Union as Stalin's monstrosity and Lenin's moral aberration. That many U.S. leftists have scant familiarity with Lenin writings and political work does not prevent them from slamming the quote-unquote Leninist label. You can call me Leninist, you can call me Stalinist. I'm all for them, all of them. All right, fuck yeah, like you cannot make me. I am unapologetic leftist. Okay, anybody you think can be left and is a true left and it's not fucking around, that's what I am. Okay, that's what I am. Yeah, I was this my neighbor, this girl Kennedy, when my kids were little, and she was a little older than them, than my kids, and she has a baby, a little red-headed baby. She's so cute. Her name is Alec, and she's a red-headed. And I was like, "Hi, Kennedy, your baby's so cute." I red-headed, and I love the red-headed. You know, you see somebody so little now they're grown, they have babies on their own. It's just like that goes by so fast. But anyway, let's go here. Noam Chomsky, who is inexhaustibly fond of anti-communist caricature, offers this comment about the Leninism. Quote, Western and outer third world intellectuals were attracted to the Bolsheviks counter-revolutionary because Leninism is, after all, a doctrine that says that the radical intelligentsia have a right to take state power and to run their countries by force, and that is an idea which is rather appealing to intellectuals. Okay, yeah, I do believe that. I really do believe that this should have take state power. That's what we need. See, a lot of problem with the left is they like hearing ideas. They like it's like the same thing will happen with Palestinian dying, being slaughtered, being exterminated, being everything. They love to see the victim, the good behaved victim. But as soon as the Palestinian fighting back, right? The October 7th, open the gate, boom, 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 Al-Qassam Brigade. Oh, Palestinian are terrorists and evil life. In the last 17 years, they have them in prison. You kill them every single day. And I say, I've been following Palestine for nearly 30 years. Every single year, they're being slaughtered. Okay? That's totally fine, right? But as soon as they love fake, that's the left problem. They don't want, the right wingers, the reactionary degenerates, why do you think they have power? Because they have state power. All right? Donald Trump has real power. This is not methodical power. He sent his dogs in the street and then they're killing people outright. No court, no justice, that's it. Because he has the state power. He's in control of the military. These dogs degenerates, okay? I mean, the U.S. military is the perfect place for people who have these racist, disgusting garbage. I mean, why do you think that white folks rape their own babies? So they can be these degenerates who can then release all that frustration on brown and black people, okay? That's it. That's the truth, all right? So they have a state. Why can the left have the state power so you can free us? Making sure that we keep these degenerates at bay. They don't want a state power. They just want to pontificate. They like letters. They like reading intellectual exercise. They think it's an intellectual exercise. Because when they see a state power like Venezuela, they start criticizing it. They don't like it. Because they think this is a hobby. It's a fucking hobby. No. We should want real state power. That's what we should ask for. Right? Why is it that the whole world has to be fucking right fascist? There's really hardly any real leftist state in this world. right? And then when we have one, like we always say we want the dictatorship of proletariat, like Iran, we don't recognize it. That's the problem. Okay, that's the problem because they think this is a hobby. We don't want a hobby. We want a real freedom. We want to have power. You know, we want to have real power, not fake power. The real power. Okay, that's it. Let's keep on. Anyway, so that we read that was quoting Chomsky, but let's see what Dr. Bernstein had to say about Chomsky here. Here, Chomsky fashioned an imagery of power-hungry intellectuals to go along with his cartoon image of power-hungry. Leninist valiance is seeking not the revolution means to fight injustice but power for power's sake. When it comes to red bashing, some of the best and brightest on the left sound much better than the worst on the right. Exactly. Because they too, as we can see, Chomsky was on the Jeffrey Epstein Island raping white babies. Okay, and then he was all this. He was there. That fucking disgusting shit. That's why these are tools of the U.S. colonial state, right? But let's keep going. At the same time of the 1996 terror bombings in Oklahoma City, and it breaks my heart. A lot of the children they were raping, they were my age and younger. I mean, when they were children, right? Women are roughly around my age. A lot of them that been killed, they have committed suicide. It's really a generation. They have destroyed generation of young women and men. You know, I mean, it's disgusting. It's so heartbreaking and so disturbing, but it's terrible. Let's keep going. At the same time of the 1996 terror bombings in Oklahoma City, I heard a radio commentator announce, quote, Lenin said that the purpose of terror is to terrorize, close quote. U.S. media commentators have repeatedly quoted Lenin in that misleading manner. In fact, his statement was disapprovingly of terrorism. He polemicized against isolation terrorist acts which do not but create terror amongst the populace, invite repression, and isolate the revolutionary movement from the masses. Far from being the totalitarians, a tight circle conspirator, Lenin urged the building of broad coalition and mass organization encompassing people who were at different levels of political development. He advocates whatever diverse means were needed to advance the class struggle, including participation in parliamentary elections and existing trade unions. To be sure, the working class, like any mass group, needed organization and leadership to wage a successful revolutionary struggle, which was the role of the vanguard party, but that did not mean the proletariat revolution could be fought and won by putschs or tears. Lenin constantly dealt with the problem of avoiding the two extremes of liberal bourgeoisie opportunism and ultra-leftist aventurism. Yet he himself is repeatedly identified as an ultra-left pushness by the mainstream journalism and some on the left. Exactly. He actually, Lenin is just not as radical as me, you know? He really believe in these fucking elections and shit, right? He thought, I feel like elections cannot, only elections I believe is like what they have in Venezuela. Direct election. Every vote counts, right? That I agree with, because if people really don't, this representation bourgeoisie, the shit we have in US, this garbage, is not it. That's not fucking the election. My vote is not, it doesn't, first of all, they don't even give me choices. So let's start with that. No choices are being presented. They are giving me fascists, 2 fascists. You know, that's not right. We don't have socialism on the ballot. We don't have communism on the ballot. We don't have nothing. This is fascistic country. That and it fascist for the whole globe. No, that's not. Lenin, on the other hand, he actually promoted. I don't even promote that. I believe in organizing, and then for me, it gotta be on the streets. Chaos until they start to concede to shit, right? That's what I believe. Mass movements on the motherfucking streets, right? Bring this shit to a halt. Strikes, all that shit. That's the political I believe. Until such point that the fucking class start to know who is in charge, right? But we need consciousness. We don't have consciousness. We have zombies in this bitch. I mean, and then the literacy rate on this country. That's why I was laughing with that I've shared that on my Facebook. Let me see if I can find it. She was just talking to black folks. She was just like, and I was just laughing at Finney when she said that. When Finney said like, I know you don't like sources, books, and facts, right? Because that's the thing. People don't read. People don't think. They don't have critical thinking skills. And also, they dogmatic. They're racist, right? They dogmatic, racist. Simplistic. And for you to have something like communism and it has to be a high level of awareness. Okay, so that's that. Anyway, let's keep reading. Left anti-communists find any association for communist organization morally unacceptable because of the quote-unquote crimes of communism. Yeah, many of them are themselves associated with the Democratic Party in this country, either as voters or as members, apparently unconcerned about the morally unacceptable political crimes committed by leaders of that organization. Under one or another Democratic administration, 12,000 Japanese Americans were torn from their homes and livelihoods and thrown into detention camp. A atomic bomb was dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki with the enormous loss of innocent life. The FBI was given authority to infiltrate political groups. The Smith Act was used to imprison leaders of the Trotsky Socialist Workers' Party and later on leaders of the Communist Party for the political beliefs. Detention camps were established to round up political dissidents in the event of a quote-unquote national emergency during the late 1940s and 1960s. 8,000 federal workers were purged from government because of the political associations and views, with thousands more in all walks of life, which hunted out of their careers. The Neutrality Act was used to impose an embargo on the Spanish Republic that worked in favor of Francisco Fascist Legion. Homicidal and content censorship programs were initiated in various third world countries, and in the Vietnam War, it was pursued and escalated. And then for the better part of the century, the congressional leaderships of the Democratic Party protected racial segregationists and Smith all anti-lynching and fair employment bill. Yet all these crimes bringing ruination and death to many have not moved the Social Democrats, and the Democratic Socialists, anti-communists to insist repeatedly that we issue blanket condemnation of either the Democratic Party or other political system that produce it. Certainly not with the intolerant fervor that has been directed against existing communism, pure socialism versus the besieged socialism. Yeah, exactly. These are fake leftists. You're gonna get a lot if you are the left. You have to understand the left is the enemy, because until we have a true left that fight the degenerates, we will never be free. You know, we will never be free. We will keep seeing genocides after genocide after genocide. This will go on for eternity. All right, because the fascists, the reactionary, are the one in charge, and they're in charge because it's really easy for them. There's no pushback, because the so-called pushback, the group that's supposed to be a pushback, is compromised, right? It's compromised. So you cannot fuck with these fake things, because like I said last time, my political evolution, it's like I knew something just by purview everything. I knew all the mainstream press, everything, just something so disgusting, and then I try to seek answers, and then I encounter this fake life, right? I encounter it. I got lucky because I was like, this can't be it. I keep trying to dig deeper, 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 and then finally is when I find the true life is so marginalized, it's so deep. It's like that stupid fucking bitch, that white Jewish bitch that was saying that, you know, to find a pro-Palestinian or people who would be disgusted by the genocide in Palestine, you needed to go so deep. You gotta go to that bookstore, so quaint, right? Now this bitch is saying that the extermination of Palestinians is supposed to be something quaint, like this woman used to be advisor to Barack Obama. That's what we do. She is mainstream. That's what she's saying. That a genocide of Palestinian people is supposed to be a quaint issue, a French issue. Is we can't. The system has to go. It's disgusting. But let's keep going. Pure socialism versus seed socialism. The upheaval in the Eastern Europe did not constitute a defeat for socialism, because socialism never existed in those countries. According to some U.S. lefties, they said that the communist states offered nothing more than a bureaucratic one-party state, quote-unquote state capitalism, or some such thing. Whether we call the former communist country quote unquote socialist is a matter of definition. Suffice is to say they constitute something different from what existed in a profit-driven capitalist world, as if capitalists themselves were not slow to recognize. First, in the communist country, there was less economic inequality than in under capitalism. The perks enjoyed by party and government elites were modest by corporate CEO standards in the West, as were their personal income and lifestyles. Soviet leaders like Yuri Andropov and Leonid Brezhnev live not in lavishly appointed mansions like the White House, but in relatively large apartments in a housing project near the Kremlin set aside for government leaders. They have limousines at their disposal, like most of the heads of the state, and access to large decades where they're entertaining visiting dignitaries, but they have none of the immense personal wealth that most U.S. leaders possesses. The quote-unquote lavish life, and by the way, this thing that they were saying that Nicolas Maduro has this bank account that has this and this and that. There was no such thing. He did not have personal wealth. He had a small salary, barely that, because he didn't really need to pay anything. He lives in the middle forest mansions and stuff. It was this, those everything. It was just state, right? So that's another thing. I had to call out so-called a friend of mine on Facebook because he was repeating the fascists and the racists and disgusting animals that rule this world lies. And I had to call him out and I bet you don't know how to read and write. How the fuck you gonna know? You know? You're so dumb. Like, why would you repeat what white colonizers telling you? So I had to cast them out. Like I should be. Because you know what? I'm past. I don't have patience with, I have lost my patience with people trying to convince them that it's not your job to do these sick, disgusting shit. Like going in Venezuela, killing a bunch of people and kidnap the president, stealing the shit left and right. If you don't think that's wrong, and nobody should be treated like that, then I don't have nothing to talk to you. You so dumb, I can fuck with you. Right? Like I just like, you fucking, how old are you? You older than me. How the fuck can you not even see that as obvious that there's something disgusting about it? What's wrong with you, you bitch? Right? That's what I meant with that. I have no patience left in me anymore. I cannot explain that away. Cause you don't need like to read theory to figure that shit out. It's very simple. But let's keep reading. The quote-unquote lavish life enjoyed by East Germany party leaders as widely publicized in the U.S. press and included a $725 yearly allowance in hard currency and housing and exclusive settlement on the outskirts of Berlin that sported a sauna, an indoor pool, and a fitness center shared by all residents. You see, that's the thing, the problem. This is why white colonizers reactionary fascists have power, because it just like the majority of people are so fucking dumb. Like they were Israel. That's why Israel is a little bit shocked that actually then the people start believing them. Like honestly, the Zionists, these degenerates are so shocked that the public is turning against them because they know the public is dumb. Okay, they really do, and they like it. You see what Donald Trump said? He liked the poorly educated, right? Because why? If you're poorly educated, you're easily to manipulate. But what people fail to understand is poorly educated is not just the person you suspect who don't have a degree, right? They never went to school and have a bachelor's degree and such, right? Poorly educated is also in these academias, right? Like we were just saying, Nora. But it's not actually, it's not like they're poorly educated. They are the one that the most dangerous one, because I have a feeling they know better, but they're playing along with the bullshit, right? Like that's why criticizing them in this fashion is very important, because those are the ones that the poorly educated listen to, right? Because he has a degree, he knows what he's talking about, right? And so what did they tell her? Oh yeah, Sinwar, he lived lavishly and no whatever. That's what the degenerate that rape babies in Israel, these animals that and slaughter Palestinians left and right and exterminated them, and then giving us this boogeyman that is Hamas, and then it's amplified by Charlie Kirk and whatever the degenerate garbage that had the microphone, right? And everybody, oh yeah, and then it turns out Yahya Sinwar was in Gaza City fighting for his people, and he died. The day he died, he has not eaten for 3 days. Right? So, you cannot, I don't understand how you still listen to the mainstream. That's the white colonizer microphone. I'm not listening to shit that might, if I am listening, I'm skeptical as to in what's being communicated, because I know what I can expect from white colonizers, because white colonizers had to say the things the white colonizers want, right? So if you are listening to white colonizer microphone, you gotta know that they communicated white colonizer gospel. You can't take the white colonizer gospel as the truth. They cannot. You think you listening to white colonizers to trying to learn about the enemy? No. If I want to hear from white colonizers how white colonizers feel, and white colonizer perspective, and white colonizer problems, I listen to white colonizer because I I can't listen what white colonizer situation from their enemy. Same thing you gotta give the enemy. If I want to know from the enemy of the white colonizer, I gotta listen to the enemy. If I'm not hearing what the enemy had to say about himself, I'm not listening from the white colonizer. All right? It's not that hard. It's very simple. Okay? You cannot, if you think the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, the Economist, all these hundreds of years, they've been doing this to perfection. There's words that you can't even utter. There's framing, and it's funny during this Palestine genocide. This is what I like this. They creative and funny and joking. They tell you how you're supposed to learn, how they frame things. So Palestinians, they die. Not as they've been slaughtered by white colonial degenerates who want to steal the land, but they die. But Israelis get killed, right? They get killed by the terrorist Hamas. White women that need to preserve from being raped by these savage animals, the brown and black folks, right? We need to concern white women, white women purity, right? But and then they just put the whole thing, and we're supposed to sympathize. White women who are raping Palestinian prisoners, white women doing that shit. They're courageous. Oh my God, white women are such a courageous for raping prisoners. Oh wow, that's what we dealing with, right? Because now you cannot think, oh wait, she's raping prisoners. She sexually molested them on tape. No, she's so courageous of molesting Palestinian prisoners. Ooh, oh, white women were dropping bombs. Ooh, that's women's power. Miss me. Let's keep going. All right. So what was that? I'm sorry, I'm so worked up. All right, I pick up on them. Second, in communist country, what was that? What was that? Okay, so I know what was it. I picked up what's up. They also could shop in stores that carry Western goods such as banana, jeans, and Japanese electronics. The U.S. press never pointed out that ordinary East German had access to public school and gyms and could buy jeans and electronics through usually not of the imported variety, nor was the quote-unquote lavish compensation enjoyed by East Germany leaders contrasted to the truly opulent lifestyle enjoyed by the Western bureaucracy. Second, in communist countries, productive forces were not organized by capital gains and private enrichment. Plus, public ownership of the means of production supplemented private ownership. Individuals could not hire other people and accumulate great personal wealth from their labor. Again, compared to Western standard differences in the earning and the saving among the populace were generally modest. The income spread between the highest and the lowest earners in the Soviet Union was about 5-1. In the United States, the spread in yearly income between top multi-millionaires and the working poor is like 10,000-1. You hear that? Look at the disparity. Listen to the disparity. 10,000-1. And this is a long time ago. Third, priority was placed on human services through life on the communist left. A lot of the desire and services themselves were rarely the best. Communist country, they guarantee the citizens a minimum standard of the economic survival and security, including guarantee education, employment, housing, and medical assistance. Fourth, communist countries did not pursue the capital penetration of the countries, lacking a profit motive as the motive force and therefore having no need to constantly find new investment opportunity. They did not expropriate the last labor markets and natural resources of weak nation. That is they did not practice economic imperialism. The Soviet Union conducted trade and aid relations on terms that generally were favorable to the Eastern European nations and Magnolia, Cuba, and India. All of the above were organizing principles for every communist system to one degree or another. None of the above apply to free market countries like Honduras, Guatemala, Thailand, North Korea, Chile, and Indonesia, Zaire, Germany, and the United States. But a real socialism is argued will be controlled by the workers themselves throughout direct participation instead of being run by Leninists, Stalinists, Castroists, and other ill-willing, power-hungry, um, bureaucratic cabals of evil men who betray revolution. Unfortunately, this quote-unquote pure socialism view is ahistorical and unfashionable. It can only be tested against the culturalists of history. It is compare an idea against an imperfect reality, and the reality comes off a poor second. It imagines what socialists would be like in a world far better than this one, where no strong state structure or security force is required. Exactly. Where none of the value produced by working needs to be expropriated to build society and defend it from invasions and internal sabotage. The pure socialist ideological anti participation remain untainted by existing practice. They do not complain how the manifold functions of a revolutionary society will be organized, how external attack and internal sabotage will be thrown, how bureaucracy will be avoided, scarce resources allocated, policy differences settled, priorities set, and productions and this distribution conducted. Instead, they offer vague statements about how the workers themselves will directly own and control the means of production and will arrive at their own solution through creative struggle. No surprise then that the pure socialists support every revolution except the ones that succeeded. The pure socialists had a vision of a society that would create and be created by the new people, a society to so transformed in his fundamental as to leave little opportunity for wrongful acts, corrupting and criminal abuses of the state power. There will be no bureaucracy of the self-interest society. Cauteries, no ruthless conflicts and hurtful decisions. When the reality proves different and more difficult, some of the left proceed to condemn the real thing and announce that they quote unquote feel betrayed by this or that revolution. The pure socialists see socialism as the idea that was tarnished by communist vanity, duplicity, and power craving. The pure socialists oppose the Soviet model but offer little evidence to demonstrate that other paths could have been taken, that other models of socialism not created from one imagination but developed through actual historical experience and could have taken hold and worked together. Was an open, pluralistic, democratic socialist actually possible at a historical juncture? The historical evidence will suggest it was not. As the political philosopher Carl James argued, Quote, how do the left critics know that the functional problem was the quote unquote nature of the ruling revolutionary parties rather than, say, the global concentration of capital that is destroying all independent economies and putting an end to national sovereignty anyway? And to the extent that it was there, that it was, where did the quote unquote nature come from? Was this quote unquote nature disembodied, disconnected from the fabric of the society itself, from the social relations impacting of it? Thousands of examples could be found in which the centralization of power was a necessary choice in securing and protecting social relations. In my observation of the existing communist society, the positive of quote unquote socialism and the negative of quote unquote bureaucratic, authoritarian, and tyranny quote unquote interpenetrated in virtually every sphere of life. Right? The pure socialists regularly blame the left itself for every defeat it suffered. The second are guessing and endless. So we hear that revolutionary struggle failed because the leaders wait too long or act too soon, are too timid or too impulsive, too stubborn or too easily swayed. We hear the revolutionary leaders are compromising or adventuresome, bureaucratic or opportunistic, rigidly organized or insufficiently organized, undemocratic or failure to provide a strong leadership. But always the leaders fail because they do not put the trust in the quote unquote direct action of the workers who apparently would withstand and overcome every adversary if only given the kind of leadership available from the left critic on groundpuscular. Unfortunately, the critics seem unable to apply their own leadership genius to producing a successful revolution movement in their own country. Exactly. You talking all this shit about the other countries, but this bitch here, what? Right? Like a European, whatever social girls they have, the white colonizers and this bitch are coming for them. They ain't gonna slice the shit. The next, my grandma lived to be almost 100 years old, collecting my grandfather pension. That's not gonna be the future generation. None of that gonna happen. My grandmother collected a pension for over 50 years. That's not gonna be. My uncle generation is the last one who's gonna, and a generation before me. Cause they coming for your shit. Okay? These degenerate, these monsters you created, they coming for your shit. Alright? Let's keep on. Tomo Fable questioning this blame the leadership syndrome of the pure socialist. Quote, it occurred to me that when people as smart, different, dedicated, and heroic as Lenin, Mao, Fidel Castro, Daniel Ortega, Ho Chi Minh, and Robert Mugabe, and millions of heroic people. Oh, my husband, give me water. And millions of heroic people who follow and fought with them all end up more or less in the same place. Then something bigger is at work than who made what decision at what meeting, or even what size houses they went home or act after meeting. These leaders these little weren't in a vacuum. They were in a whirlwind. And the suction, the force, the power that was swinging them around has spun and left this globe mangled for more than 900 years. And the blame this or that theory or this or that leader is a simple-minded substitute for the kind of analysis that Marxists should make. Okay. To be sure, the pure socialism act now entirely without specific agenda for building the evolution. After this Sandinista overthrew the Somoza dictatorship in Nicaragua, an ultra-left group in that country called for direct workers' ownership of the factories. The armed workers would take control of the production without benefit of the managers, state planners, bureaucracy, or a former military. While undeniably appealing, this working syndicalism denies the necessity of a state power. Under such an arrangement, the Nicaragua Revolution would not have lasted 2 months against the U.S.-sponsored counter-revolutionary that savaged the country. It would have been unable to mobilize enough resources to field an army, take security measures, or build a coordinated economic program and human services on a national scale. Exactly. You see? If you think, and I'm not stupid to ever think that we will ever reach that freedom. The white degenerates, they're gonna be here with us. As long as white degenerates exist on this earth, every single state has to have a way to be on the guard against them. Period. State power. You can be anarchist all you want. Go cry if you, it never gonna work. You have to have, it's just fantasy thinking. It's fantasy thinking. State power cannot be replaced. I mean, a real strong one. We like white folks. I'm talking to white folks in a generality here. If you think about capitalism as a white thing, they would never give this up peacefully. They always they're like a predator. Literally, that because they think in this term, they think in animalistic terms. They're thinking animalistic terms. And as long as we have these animals, this is a jungle, all right? And the strong win. As long as these animals, because these are not cultured people, they will never be called, they do not like civilization. As long as that's the case, right? We can fuck around. Pan Judaica is what these bitches want. Just like US, look, you cannot be romantic. These are romantic fantasy because you already live in a fucking disgusting shit in US, and you have freedom to be able to write and think without these degenerate coming a white man and a CIA or can just come to your village and exterminate you and get off it. And yeah, that's not okay. You have the luxury. You're not gonna be slaughtered today. So you can pontificate in your high horse, but if you are Fidel Castro and you're trying to keep Cuba free from these degenerate, you have a whole nother different mindset. You can't fuck around. It's like I've been listening to Venezuela. They always say Venezuela is free with weapons. Why you think the white degenerate went and did what a little operation and got out? Because he can't stay. If you stay over there in Venezuela and try to take their shit, the native people there, the black people there, they're not gonna take it going down because the black people there and the native people there now know they have rights and they want to preserve their shit. And you, the gringo, you dirty motherfucker, you try to steal their shit and they're not gonna take it. So what do you gotta do? You go in, do what you gotta do, give an illusion to the dumb fascists here that you did something, right? And maybe work out with somebody, some of the Venezuelan people who just don't want you to keep doing that shit, and call it a day. Because the day that's and if Venezuela did not have that, every Venezuela, almost like over a million Venezuelans have weapons ready to go. If Venezuela didn't have that, you best believe there would have been Libya today. You best believe. Because the white degenerates, they know. Alright? Let's not get it twisted. I don't know what to do. That's why I'm doing this video. Because I really want people to understand that this is real. This is real life. This is not... This, you had to deal with life as it presents in your hand. You cannot be romantic about this shit. This is real talk. Like black folks, we would say, this is real talk. I mean, yes, we can only, one can only hope, but this is real life. It's not. It's just a struggle. It's a struggle. If you brown person, it's in a struggle. If you black person, it's in a struggle. This is a struggle. Our life are constructed to struggle because the degenerate will never let us free. We have to demand. It has to be a concept. You have to be real about it. All right. Let's keep going. Decentralization versus survival. For a people revolution to survive, it must seize state power and use it to break the stranglehold exercised by owning class over the society, institution, and resources. Okay, wait a minute. Let's start over. For a people revolution to survive, it must seize state power and use it to A, break the stranglehold exercised by the owners and class over the society, institution, and resources, and B, withstand the reactionary counterattack that is sure to come. The internal and external dangers a revolution faces necessitate a centralized state power that is not particularly to anyone's liking. Not in the Soviet Russia in 1917, nor the Sandinista Nicaragua in 1980. Engels offered an episode account of an uprising in Spain in 1872 and 73 in which anarchists seized power in municipalities across the country. At first, the situation looked promising. The king had abdicated and the bourgeoisie government could muster but a few thousand ill-trained troops. Yet, this ragtag force prevailed because it faced thoroughly parochialized rebellion. Quote, Eastham proclaimed itself as a sovereign canton and set up a revolutionary committee, junta, Engels right, and each town acted on his own, declaring that the important thing was a cooperation with other towns but separation from them, thus precluding any possibility of a combined attack against the bourgeoisie forces, close quote. It was, quote, the fragmentation and isolation of the revolutionary forces which enabled the government troops to smash one revolt after the other, close quote. You see? And that's why white colonizers want. If they can get away the way with Iran, they will break it apart because it's easy to manage, as a centralized state. And it's hard for them to, they don't like big states, right? It's just like the little thing. It's hard if it's big and it's a lot of people keeping an eye on your eyes. It's hard to fuck with them, right? But that's why God calls us to that. But let's keep going. Decentralized parochial autonomy is the graveyard of insurgency. You hear that? Which may be one reason why there has never been a successful annual synchrony revolution. Ideally, it would be fine, fine thing to have, only local, self-directed workers' participation, and with minimal bureaucracy, police, and military. This probably would be development of socialism, where socialism ever allowed to develop unhindered by the counter-revolutionary subversion and attack. Exactly. you know, exactly. Let's keep going. One might recall how in 1918 to 1920, 14 capitalist nations, including the United States, invaded Soviet Russia in a bloody but unsuccessful attempt to overthrow the revolutionary Bolshevik government. The years of foreign invasion and civil war did much to intensify the Bolshevik psychology with his commitment to lockstep party unity and a repressive security apparatus. Thus, in May 1921, the same Lenin who had encouraged the practice of internal party democracy and a struggle against Trotsky in order to give the trade union a greater measure of autonomy, now called for an end to the workers' opposition and the factional groups within the party. The quote, the time has come, close quote, he told an enthusiastically concurring 10 party Congress. Quote, to put an end to opposition, to put a lid on it, we have had enough opposition, close quote. Open dispute and conflicted tendency within and without the body, the communists concluded, created an appearance of division and weaknesses and invited attack by formidable force. Only a month earlier, in the April 1921, Lenin had called for more workers' representation on the party's central committee. And so he had become not anti-workers but anti-opposition. Here was a social revolution like every other that was not allowed to develop his political and material life in an unhindered way. I'm sorry for coughing. By the late 1920s, the Soviet faced the choice of A, moving in a still more centralized direction with a command economy and forced agrarian collectivization and full-based industrialization under a commanding autocratic party leadership, the road taken by Stalin, or two, or B, moving in a liberalized direction, allowing more political diversity, more autonomy for labor unions and other organizations, more open debate and criticism, greater autonomy among the various Soviet republics, or a sector of privately owned small businesses, independent agricultural development by a peasantry, greater emphasis on the consumer goods, and less effort given to the kind of capital accumulation needed to build a strong military and industrial base. The latter course, I believe, will have produced a more comfortable, more humane, and servable society. See socialism could have given way to worker consumer socialism. The more problem is that the country will have risked being incapable of withstanding the Nazis' onslaught. You see that? Instead, the Soviet Union embarked upon a rigorous forced industrialization. You hear that? I mean, I used to be pacifist. I used to be somebody who's just like, no, violence cannot solve problems. Not anymore. Once I learned, we dealing with degenerates. I mean, you're talking about savage animals, okay? I know, and my uncle in Spain living in he's fucking, boy, he trying Monica, why you support Hamas? Because Hamas is the only person that's gonna free Palestine. And I'm not talking to Hamas like because Hamas is a big party. I'm talking to the military, the armed wing of the Hamas. Because these specky arms, them are hyper insufficient. That's the only language these degenerate animals works. Okay, that's the only language that Netanyahu understands. That's the only language that Donald Trump understands. That's the only language that the Joe Biden understands. Okay, don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. That's only one of the average racist white women in this country understand. If she not a bitch, you're gonna have uncomfortable day, right? Because shit happened, shit went down when your bitch ass had never been like, you know. That's the only thing. Because as long as thing are peaceful and comfortable and you just dying quietly and slaughtering you with no consequences, they don't like that. That's, you know, but there's an armed resistance with these degenerates. That's the only thing. Because at some point they're going to say, we need to give these people their rights. You know? Black folks used to get their churches bombed every Sunday by the KKK. U.S. State did not defend black folks. They didn't care. There's courses of black people all over this country. But when black folks start having arms, they know you bitch you come to our house, it's gonna get down. When black folks start to say you, then KK had to go away. You know, they have to. We dealing with degenerates who think they're entitled to everything, right? We can't. It has to be like, if you come here, then shit's gonna go down. And this coming from a woman who don't know how to fight. Although I do know how to fight. Actually, I do. Actually, I do. And if you don't believe me, ask my husband. Let's keep going. Not because I fight with my husband, because my husband, no. Obviously, I'm polite and everything. But my husband saw one thing. This woman want to go after my husband, attacking him, and trying to come attack me when I was trying to reason with her. And my husband saw what needed to take place swiftly. Don't get it twisted. I know how to respect my physical boundaries and my husband's physical boundaries if I have to. Hopefully I don't have to, but for the most part I know how to at least stop. You know, I'm definitely not the kind of woman who don't know how God have endowed me with proper skill set. Let's put it that way. Okay, let's keep going. What was that? Okay. Oh, okay. So I just started. I don't know. The policy has often been mentioned as above of the wrongs penetrated by Stalin upon his people. It consisted mostly of building with a decade an entirely new huge industrial base east of the Urals and the middle of the barren steppes, the Brest steel complex in Europe, in anticipation of an invasion from the west. Quote, money was spent like water, men froze, hunger, and suffered, but the construction went on with a disregard for the individual and mass heroism seldom parallel in history, close quote. Stalin prophesied that the Soviet Union had only 10 years to do what the British had done a century proved correct. when the Nazis invaded in 1941, that same that same industrial base safely and un, unscorned thousands of miles from the front proved the weapons of war that eventually turned the tide. The cause of the survival included 22 million Soviet citizens who perished in the war and unmeasurable devastation and suffering, the effects of which will distort Soviet society for decades afterwards. Exactly. Exactly. You know, who else I was thinking? It's like, yeah, that's him right here. All right, let me see if I can put it in the camera. This traitor here, this traitor Alexander Solzhenitsyn, right? This degenerate. This is a traitor of the Soviet Union. Okay, they want to romanticize shit, but if the Soviet Union didn't do what they want to do, I think whole Africa would be wiped out. The brown and black folk, we would have been just like a token if you can find one of us. All right, so let's not get it twisted. Let's not get the fucking twisted. We cannot allow black white folks who had us enslaved for 400 years. I'm talking to black people here. They had us enslaved for over 400 years. You kept a whole race of people that you designated as black. They came from Africa, right? They call us erased people. You enslave us. We erase a slave race. For over 400 years, you did it to human beings. Exterminate whole natives in the whole continent of the Americas. Right? We cannot believe the shit they say. We have to be we have to be smart when we are listening skill, using our critical thinking skill. When we can't take, because it takes a structure in place. We cannot buy it. We cannot buy it. When they're talking about another people now they're targeting, we gotta be critical. We can't just say because they write it down. You see, this man is so grossly translated, but we don't get too many other Russians who are being translated. No. We can't trust them because it's in the New Yorker or it's in the New York Times or the Atlantic. We can. I just don't understand why we still fall for it. It's mind-boggling to me. It's mind-boggling to me. We cannot let them, if they are demonizing, we should thank the white colonizer where they're demonizing somebody, because if they're demonizing somebody, that means it must be a hero. If they hate Stalin so much, that Stalin must be a hero. Okay? Stalin must be a hero. We have to be careful who the white colonizers are demonizing, because guess what? Yeah, they want to talk shit about Hitler, but they ain't Hitler's side. Okay? Let's not get it twisted. Hitler was the Nazis. There's Nazis left and right in this bitch. The U.S. government making a policy. Right? So, I'm saying that let's be smart. We want freedom or what? Or we want to keep just crying, just being perpetual victims? It's time for us to grow up. It's time for us to grow up. But let's finish the chapters, and so I can go hang out with my husband. He had been long suffering for, I don't know, forever long been here. Stalin prophecy that the Soviet Union only had 10 years. Let me repeat that. Stalin prophecy that the Soviet Union only had 10 years to do what the British have done in a century proved correct. When the Nazis invaded in 1941, That same industrial base safely encountered thousands of miles um, from the front, produced the weapons of war that eventually turned the tide. The cost of survival was 22 million Soviet citizens who perished in the world in miserable devastation and suffering, the effect of which will have destroyed Soviet society for decades afterward. All of this is not to say that everything Stalin did was of historical necessity. The exigencies of revolutionary survival did not, quote, make inevitable the quote unquote the inevitable the heartless execution of hundreds of old Bolshevik leaders, the personal cult of a supreme leader who claimed every revolutionary gain as his own achievement, the suppression of a party political life through terror, the the eventual silencing or debate regarding the peace of industrialization or collectivization, the ideological regulation of all the intellectuals and cultural life, and the mass deportation of quote-unquote suspect nationalists. The transformation effect of counter-revolutionary attack had been left in others country. As a Sandinista military officer I met in Vienna in 1986 noted that the Nicaraguans were, quote, not a warrior people, close quote, but they had to learn to fight because they faced a destructive U.S. sponsored mercenary war. She bemoaned the fact that war was embargo forced her country to postpone much of its social economic agenda. As with Nicaragua, so with Zimbabwe, Angola, and numerous other countries in which the U.S. financed mercenary forces destroy farmland, villages, healthcare centers, and power stations while killing or starving hundreds of thousands. The revolutionary baby was strangled in the crib or mercilessly bled beyond recognition. This really ought to earn at least as a mass recognition as the suppression of its dissenting this in this or that revolutionary society. The overthrow of the Eastern European and Soviet communist government was shared by many left intellectuals. Now democracy will have its day. The people will be free from the yoke of communism, and the US left will be free from the albastros of existing communism are all, as left theorist Rachel Lynchman put it, quote, liberated from the incubus of a society union and the succubus of a communist China, close quote. In fact, the capitalist restoration in Eastern Europe seriously weakened the numerous Third World liberation struggles that had received aid from the Soviet Union and brought whole new crops of right-wing governments into existence, ones that now work hand in glove with the U.S. global counter-revolutionary around the globe. In addition, the overthrow of communism gave the green light to the unbridled exploitative impulses of the Western corporate interests, no longer needing to convince workers that they live better than their counterpart in Russia, and no longer restrained by a competing system. The corporate class is rolling back the many gains that working people in the West have won over the years. Now that the free market it is uh, now that the free market in its meanest form is emerging triumphant in the East, so will it prevail in the West. Capitalism with a human face. Oh wait. Okay. Quote, capitalism with a human face, close quote, is being replaced by, quote, capitalism in your face, close quote. Richard Levins put it, quote, so in the exuberant aggressively of the word capitalism, we see what communists and left allies have held at bay, close quote. Having never understood the role that existing communist powers play in is tempting and tempering the worst impulses of Western capitalism. Western capitalism and imperialism, and having perceived communism as nothing but an unmitigated evil, the left anti-communists did not anticipate the losses that we to come. Some of them still don't get it. All right, and that's what we're gonna leave it today. Tomorrow, we'll pick up on chapter 4, communism and the Wonderland. Alright, but while we leave, I have a couple things I want to do today. I think I want to go get my hair done. And I see my hairdresser wouldn't be was if you can see me, and I want to go to the store and get me some bread. So I'm gonna leave us with this, our favorite song. No soy de aquí ni soy de allá. Alright, let's see. That's gonna be played. That is with Jorge Cafrune.
Let's go, boys!
One thing I've noticed about football fans is they all talk like the players can actually hear.
Free Palestine.
Me gusta el sol, Alicia y la paloma, el buen cigarro y las malas señoras,
Oh, Ana.
saltar
Hola.
paredes y abrir las
Estoy
ventanas.
bien.
Y
Lo
cuando
siento,
llora
que
una
se me olvidó
mujer,
llamarte la semana pasada. Yo no sabía si me puedes hacer el pelo
el vino
hoy. ¿Es posible?
tanto como las flores y los conejos,
Bueno,
pero
¿tú
no
tienes
los
tiempo ahora?
tractores.
Sí,
Y el
me
pan
dejas
casero
venir
y
como a
la
las 10:30.
voz de Dolores y el mar mojándome
Gracias,
los
Ana. Ya te
pies.
veo, ¿vale? Hasta luego.
No soy de aquí ni soy de allá, no tengo edad ni porvenir, y ser feliz es mi color de identidad. Me gusta estar tirado siempre en la arena, en mi matungo perseguir a Manuela, o todo el tiempo para ver las estrellas con la María en el trigal. No soy de aquí ni soy de allá, no tengo edad ni porvenir, y ser feliz es mi color de identidad. Me gusta el sol, Alicia y las palomas, el buen cigarro y las malas señoras, saltar paredes y abrir las ventanas, y cuando llora una mujer.